Endgame in Ukraine, a detailed analysis of how the war could end in 2025. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has entered its most critical phase, with shifting front lines, international diplomatic efforts, and geopolitical ramifications. Here's an in-depth look at the key scenarios for how this war might conclude in 2025. First, diplomatic resolution. Ceasefire or peace agreement. Diplomatic efforts remain a focal point for resolving the conflict. The following factors could drive negotiations. Renewed U.S. involvement. With the 2025 inauguration of U.S. President Donald Trump, there's a potential shift toward more aggressive diplomacy aimed at ending the conflict. Trump has hinted at a desire to broker a swift resolution, possibly by leveraging relationships with Russia and NATO allies. International mediation. Countries like Turkey and China could play pivotal roles in facilitating peace talks. Turkey has previously brokered grain export deals, demonstrating its capability to mediate effectively. Challenges to peace. Both sides are entrenched in their demands. Ukraine insists on the restoration of its 1991 borders, including Crimea, while Russia seeks guarantees against NATO expansion and recognition of annexed territories. Second, military endgame, decisive victory or stalemate. The possibility of a military resolution hinges on several factors. Ukraine's counteroffensives. Despite initial successes in 2024, Ukraine's counteroffensives have faced stiff resistance with heavy casualties on both sides. If Ukraine can leverage continued Western support, including advanced weaponry and intelligence, it might make significant gains in 2025. Russian defense strategy. Russia has fortified its positions in key regions like Donetsk and Luhansk. Its strategy includes integrating these areas into its administrative structure, making a military rollback more challenging. NATO's role. The supply of F-16s, long-range missiles, and advanced air defense systems to Ukraine could be a game-changer. However, NATO's direct involvement remains off the table to avoid escalating the conflict into a broader war. Third, economic and political pressures. Both Russia and Ukraine face mounting internal pressures that could influence the war's outcome. Russia, economic sanctions continue to erode Russia's economy, with growing dissent among its population. A weakened domestic front could push the Kremlin toward seeking a resolution. Ukraine. The war has devastated Ukraine's economy, with massive reconstruction needs and displacement of millions. Sustaining public morale and military capacity will be critical for Kiev's endurance. Fourth, geopolitical shifts and the role of global powers. The broader geopolitical environment could significantly impact the conflict. China's influence. China has positioned itself as a neutral power, calling for peace while maintaining strong ties with Russia. A shift in China's stance could tip the scales in either direction. Global energy markets. Europe's reduced dependency on Russian energy and a stable global energy supply could weaken Russia's leverage. Unpredictable alliances. The potential for new alliances or fractures within NATO or the BRICS nations could create unexpected opportunities or challenges for the warring sides. Could Biden start trouble for the U.S. and the world in the time he has left in the Oval Office? Though Joe Biden's presidential term is nearing its end, he can still make major decisions that can never be overturned, says Professor Joe Siracusa, a political scientist and Dean of Global Futures at Curtin University. He said in the next 4 months, and here we're talking about January 20th, 2025, he could in this short period of time encourage President Zelensky to negotiate with the Russian Federation about a diplomatic solution of the war in Ukraine. He suggests He could encourage the Israelis to attack Iran and drag the US into a conflict that might ultimately involve the Russian Federation. Aside from affecting global affairs, Biden's decisions may also affect the outcome of the upcoming presidential election in the US, seeing how Democratic candidate Kamala Harris is Biden's vice president and thus will pretty much have to wear what he does, Professor Siracusa points out. For instance, Biden could give the Ukrainians the green light to use American offensive weapons on their border to hit inside Russia itself, or encourage the Israelis to attack the oil and gas installations in Iran, threatening world prices. In terms of the U.S. leverage with its allies, and here we're looking at Israel and Ukraine, allies such as they are could get the U.S. in a lot of trouble down the road that would affect the system for a long time, the scholar remarks. That said, while Biden still has plenty of time to get in trouble, there is probably not enough time for a major diplomatic breakthrough, Professor Siracusa observes. I think in the next 4 months, Joe Biden has to decide Five, potential outcomes in 2025 / prolonged stalemate. Both sides dig in, with neither achieving a decisive victory. This scenario could lead to a frozen conflict similar to Korea or Transnistria. Partial peace agreement. A ceasefire establishes demarcation lines but leaves contentious issues unresolved, such as Crimea's status. Decisive victory, unlikely but possible, depending on the success of Ukraine's offensives or Russia's countermeasures. Escalation into a broader war, a worst-case scenario involving increased international involvement, cyber warfare, or the use of unconventional weapons. Conclusion. The war in Ukraine is at a crossroads, with 2025 potentially being the decisive year for its resolution. While diplomatic efforts and military campaigns continue, the outcome will hinge on the resilience of both nations, the strategies of their allies, and the shifting dynamics of global politics. What do you think? Will 2025 bring an end to the Ukraine and Russia war, or will it continue to drag on? Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned to Geopolitics News Channel News for more in-depth analysis.